Bas, thanks for making the time. It's really appreciated, man.
You're very welcome, my friend. Let me put this one in here. So now I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. You know what's amazing? You know how many people know you, your career, everything you've done, and all the other fighters. And people can probably like recount different fights, can recount different, moments from your career and commentating career and all the different things. And yet a lot of people probably don't know. They don't really pay attention to what happens, when you're done, with the fighting part. Or even when you don't go to comment on fights that actively anymore. What happens? And I think in a way, commenting on fights is probably an interesting transition because you're still kind of in the fight game. But how does it feel like? And it's an interesting moment to really analyze. How does it feel when you're a fighter, your caliber of fighter, right? And then suddenly you're not fighting anymore. Like, what's the feeling? Is there some sort of how does that transition go?
It was hard because it was injuries, and you don't want to stop as a fighter. But now I'm very happy I got injuries because it made me stop at like a 22 fight unbeaten streak. So that was really nice to get out.
Right.
But at the time, I really wanted to keep competing, and which is of course stupid because you're getting older, and these guys they started training when they're 5 years old. Eventually, you're going to lose against the guy half your age. It's going to happen. You
Right.
can't push anymore. So, and I was just always blessed, man. It's almost, listen, when I had all my diseases as a kid, the skin disease and the asthma, the severity and the bullying and all that stuff, and I thought it was all a curse, but now I realize it was all a blessing. It was,
Yeah.
that made me the fighter, and that's how I learned to keep pushing and keep doing everything. And it just taught me everything about life. So, and then when I was done, I'm training Mark Kerr and Genki Suno and Dwayne Ludwig and Carlos Newton and Alex Stiebling and all these guys. They started coming, and I got flying to Japan, and then suddenly I'm predicting. I'm sitting backstage. The fights, we are waiting for the main event for Mark Kerr, and there's a fight going on. I say, "Oh, look at him! He's going to get armbarred." And they go like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, I'll give it like 5 or 10 seconds." Says, "Oh, there you
Right.
go." See, and that was literally how I got my job. That was
Oh,
literally
I didn't know
the
that. I did not know that. Okay.
yeah, they go like, "Oh, how did you know that?" And I did it with the second one also. Was Sakuraba rolling into a knee bar. I go, "Oh, he's got a knee bar much. He's going to roll in." And they go, "But he's not." They go, "Give it 10 seconds, because you see, I'm setting him up." And that's, did you ever do any commentating? I go, "No." You see, I was so green, Mike, that I was when I went to Japan, I didn't bring a suit.
Okay.
I didn't know that commentators were wearing suits. I was
Right.
there with my Hawaii shirt on and
You're a
shorts
fighter. You're a
and a flip
fighter.
flop.
Yeah.
And that's why we started making the weird openings at the Pride Fighting Championships. We were forced to because I just simply didn't have a suit. But then
Right.
people loved it. And now suddenly it became a skit, Every opening we did something weird. So you see, so most of the time those things they come from a problem that we
Right.
had, and we reversed the problem into something good. So, and then I started teaching, and then I started a gym, and then I said, it was almost like he was just putting everything in front of me, and I was just picking what I liked. It was amazing. So yeah,
True blessing,
never
right?
been really afraid. But this moment that you're down in money, but my wife was always the same. She would always say, "This Bas, this is like the 10th time now.
Right.
Every single time it will be okay. Trust it. It will provide." And boom, it will provide again. It's amazing.
That's amazing. See, a lot of people don't know these small episodes, these small details, right?
Yep.
But then, so think about this, and then you're part of this life, and then I'm thinking, because I read online that when you actually stop fighting, when you actually injuries is one thing, but then you, like you said, you get, father time catches up to you, and you can't compete with these younger guys. You can teach, you're going to continue to teach, and you still do, I know, but you're not a fighter. Is there an element of, I don't want to call it depression, but there's an element of this being down a little bit and feeling a little bit somewhat negative about the fact that, hey, I got older, I get a little bit, I'm not where I used to be. I'm not this number one ranked guy anymore. You know what I mean? Is there some
Yeah.
element of that thought?
No, I never had that. The reason is because I was training with the students that I had who were all champions at the time, and I had no problem with them. We would be sparring. So I never had really that problem. It was just I could not push as hard anymore because then I would get this kind of tendonitis in my arms. And if that would start 3 weeks before a fight, oh, dude, it was like 2 times a day, every day. in insane pain, and there's nothing you can do. It's not like you can pop a pain pill because you're going to have to fight. So that was hard, and that was, it was easy for me also to step away from it, because it was so, I would lose weight from the pain. It was just too much. There was nothing I could do, and I had 45 minutes to train on the clock. Boom, and then it started. Every single workout, freaking nightmare, man. It was great. So no, I never really had that. Now when I come in and then I see guys train, I would really like to do it, especially rolling, submission game. It's a never ending and never learning game. It is so cool, and I really miss that. But if I have one wrong move with my neck would fall at the front and back, like a half a neck crank or whatever happens, that could be really bad. So I just don't want to take the risk anymore.
Right, especially on that level, right? You can't roll with guys on that level.
No,
something's going to get hurt. Something's going to get broken.
100%. Something's going to give.
For sure. Hey, but what's amazing? We were telling me about Mauro Ranallo, and he's such a well-known figure in the commentating space. And first of all, I did not know that someone that you worked with at the time, I believe at Pride. You started working with him. Did you introduce him to that? To your knowledge, how did he get started, Mauro?
So I was doing in a TV show. I was the fight choreographer from Holt McCallany, who's the lead actor from Mindhunter. And he had his own TV show. We go back a long time, and he wanted me there as being his fight choreographer, because that wasn't the Matrix time. And he was a military guy, and they wanted to make him spinning back kicks and all that crap. And that's not what freaking special forces do. It's headbutts, elbows, knees, and just destroy your opponent. So he wanted me there. So we were there, and then I was booked on the weekend. I was booked for a movie, which is really weird. It never happened, because I told him, I said, this will never happen. He says, we want you to do commentating on a fight that we haven't put together yet. I go, yeah, that's never going to work. And they said, no, but don't worry, we can build the fight around it. I said, okay, well, you're going to pay, right? Yeah. I said, okay, you'll pay me, and it will never work. I can guarantee you that. And anyway, I moved out to the set. I arrived there, and that was Mauro. And Mauro was overweight at the time. He was so big, but that voice was immediately popping out with me. And it started with me. I was there like 20 minutes early, and we had a 6-page script that we had to do. There was like a little bit of acting in there as well. And I'm reading my lines, and I'm, not really good at memorizing. It's once it's in there, but I have to work for it. Mauro comes in, and he grabs the page, and he's like literally doing this, and he's going this. And we're talking 2 minutes.
That's incredible.
He puts it away, and he says, "Okay, let's do it." And I go, "What? You got it?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "No way." And so I go to page number 3, and I give my line, and he answers. And I go,
amazing.
And then we started. I get goosebumps now. And then we started to riff, and during the fight, and we had such a great time. People were dying laughing, and it was so fun. And I go, "Dude, give me your number, because your voice and your memory. I mean, you should be in the business." And he said to me, he's always wanted that, and that was his biggest thing. And then 3 years later, Pride Fighting Championships got rid of Stephen Quadros. It was actually the third time. I saved the first 2 times, but then the third time they said, "No, listen, you cannot do it anymore. Are you going to stay?" I said, "Of course, I love the company, So, and do you know somebody else?" Now, I know Stephen very well, and I felt really bad for this whole thing. So I didn't mention Mauro yet, because I thought maybe he's going to think that I set this up or something. I didn't want to do it. So I let it over to them. You guys figure it out. They came with another guy who was a one-man radio show. That didn't really work, because he was constantly talking. He was a great guy, but it wasn't for it. And then I told him, I said, "Listen, I have a guy, but I don't know if his number still was." This 3 years ago. And I left him a message. And at that moment, he just came out of the institute. He was, he was peeing on beds with people. He was completely insane, and he was so very... And once he came out, his mother said, "Hey, there's the guy with a weird accent on your voicemail." And he listened to it. He says he broke down. Send him a tape. They saw the tape. He came over, and I remember the first time he was with us. We did it, and and I told him, I said, "Listen, you're going to be the best commentator in the world very soon now." And that same year, he was already the #1 guy. But because we talk about him because of mental problems, right? He had bipolar, and this was the very first show we had, and he forgot his medication at the airport.
Oh my God. And
Now,
that
I don't know if
really
you have,
definitely showed, right? In other words, that definitely
oh,
affects
it's like he was possessed.
absolutely.
Was that, he was like freaking out, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to hold him. I go, dude, first I put him in a room so nobody could see. I said, look at me, try to focus, try to focus. What can I do? What can I do? You know, I mean, the medication. Well, we don't have it. Well, what can help? And he goes, weed. And I go, okay, that's a felony here, but let me make a few phone calls. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I had a person coming and he smoked, and it
Right.
was like 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. He was completely good. You
Right.
see, that's why I was
Absolutely.
so against all these people constantly saying about the marijuana is bad at this. And I go, dude, it does so much good for certain people,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
for mental disorders. And you know, it's, and for him, it was, I mean, immediately he was back to normal. It was insane.
Yeah, and listen, they use CBD. It depends on the dosage, depends on what it is, but I think it's so helpful, like I said, to so many people. And he's a prime example. He's also a prime example of someone that's willing to talk about it openly, as I know in the later years, recently especially. Both of you guys kind of, you helped him as well. He talks about it openly because I think it's such a, there's still a bit of stigma where people don't want to, for some reason, they want to talk about it. And that actually makes things much worse for people that are suffering from bipolar or from any kind of borderline or any kind of related, like you said, mental health conditions. And if only
Yeah.
people talked about it more, especially guys like you and him that are well known around the world, when you open to talk about it, and it's funny that there is a lot of people don't understand, there's a solution to it. Like you said, you're not even a trained mental health professional, and you were able to help them on a human level right there,
Yep.
one to one. But besides CBD, besides weed, there's a lot of therapy, there's a lot of things that may be done. I know one thing you also are working on is this oxygen breathing mechanism, I believe, right? Which I think a huge part of anxiety and depression and bipolar disorders has to do with breathing. I think, from my
Yeah.
knowledge, is that something? What is it specifically that you promote? I believe.
Okay, so yeah, it's called the auto trainer. What happened was, it's like I was a very asthmatic kid, so I was a week in bed every 5 weeks, not able to eat, not able to do anything because I had to drink from a cloth in the water
Wow.
because otherwise it would shoot in my throat. It was like 24/7, right?
Unbelievable. Yeah.
But then I was also doing track and field at a high level, and already because I was young, but I was good at track and field, decathlon, and my running times, of course, were always raw bad. But after an asthma attack, I would break my running times, and it
Right.
drove me insane. And I didn't know why it was. And then I went to the doctor, and I saw a drawing of a pair of lungs on the wall in a frame. And as a kid and as an adult too, you think the lung infection is in your lungs. It's not in your lungs. It's in the airways that go to the lungs.
Okay.
So the two airways that go to the lungs, those are infected. And it showed an infected airway and it showed a healthy airway.
Right.
And I go, oh, I've been working out my lungs. I've been working out with resistance, so unknowingly I've been working out my lungs. Now your lungs don't work like that. Your lungs are just two bags. There's not a muscle in your lung. And the only way to open them up is by chest expansion, because there's a vacuum between your body and your lungs. And if you expand your chest, that's how you open up your lungs. So people go like, oh, my chest expands because I put air in them. No, it's the other way around. Your chest expands, and that is how you pull the air in. You see, and I put this thing here because we're going to see, this is the diaphragm. Right.
Sure.
So imagine the diaphragm is in the center of your body, right? It's the chest cavity, it divides the chest cavity and the abdominal cavity. And
Right.
the side of this thing is located the lower rib cage, the lowest part of your ribs. And what the diaphragm does is this: when you breathe in, it drops down.
I got
It
you.
massages your intestines, it massages your heart on the top. It's really good for everything, but it drops down. And from that angle, it doesn't show a lot, but look what it does. Both. It expands. And this
Greatly. Yes.
expansion happens in the middle of your chest, and that together with your intercostal muscles, which are the muscles in your ribs, in between your ribs, the external ones, open up your chest. Now, what it does is that 95% of us are breathing wrong. And like you said already, with anxiety, PTSD, but people get an attack, they all start chest breathing.
Absolutely.
And they can't get rid of enough air, and it's just it becomes completely wrong.
Well, they panic even more. Right. Absolutely.
Toxic. So the way to control it is to really catch yourself, because we all breathe wrong. 95% of us breathing wrong. And the 5% probably have breathing classes. And it all starts when you're like 5.5, because then we become self-conscious. We see girls, and if we breathe through our belly, they might think we're fat. Let's not do that. Superheroes, I want to look like him, I want to have a six-pack. So we all start breathing by raising our chest. So every person at home, if they're standing in front of the mirror, take a deep breath, you're doing this, you can get up to 5 times more oxygen in your body by simply using the correct muscles. Now, So I came up with a device for it. It's called an inspiratory muscle training device. This is all backed up. There's thousands of published medical journals about this. This is not a new thing. I mean, the Romans were doing it, the gladiators. I mean, it's a very basic concept because I was a kid. Remember, I was 14 years old when I came up with this idea. And it's very simple. This side
How does it work? How does it work?
Yeah, and it goes from like 1 millimeter, super tiny hole,
Right.
all the way to 16 millimeter, and then you just start with a bigger hole. And now we found out breathing exercises would be the best. So what it does, it trains your breathing muscles, which you have over 10 pounds of breathing muscles.
Right.
And it forces you to use the correct technique. And once you use the correct technique, there's a nerve called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, they will pronounce it there, and Latin will be vagus. And that's the 10th cranial nerve. It's involved in nearly any physiological action in the human body, even breathing, blinking your eyes, the things that you don't know. Also those motor functions that does it as well. But that nerve, once you breathe diaphragmatically, shorter inhales than exhales, you stimulate that nerve, and then it drops your heart rate, it drops your blood pressure, and then because that happens, it drops your cortisol level. So everybody starts to calm down. And that's why, when people have anxiety attacks, and they have them all the time, the doctors, the good ones, they will teach them how to diaphragmatic breathe. Now, that's cool. Now you got diaphragmatic breathing, but still, if you work out that muscle, this is like weight training for your breathing muscles, then you make that muscle stronger, you give it more endurance, and you can push out your rib cage more so you can fill up your lungs easier with air. And that's when the real stuff starts to come. And the results, I didn't know, anxiety, PTSD, high altitude, I mean, all the things that it's doing right now, and it's all backed up. If you go to the website, it's all published medical journals. I have everywhere. It's amazing. Back problems, balance. It's your major one for balance. I mean,
Bas, what's the website, just so that people will know?
It's o2trainer.com, and otherwise go to Amazon O2 Trainer. It's
wonderful.
It's 4 minutes a day.
It's amazing how people may not know about the fact that they're not breathing right. Like you said, 95, close to 100% people don't even probably breathe the right way. I'm probably one of them. And obviously, like you said, fighters is one thing, but think about people that are prone to anxiety attacks, prone to breathing issues, right? And that actually leads to further issues. Absolutely.
4 to 6 of these breaths is the same. You pull in the same amount of air as one diaphragmatic breath.
Amazing.
So the difference is bizarre. Instead of, let's take the lowest number 4. So if you come out of a hard round, let's say you're a boxer, instead of breathing 40 times, you can get the same amount of air by doing it 10 times correctly. It's a giant difference, but it immediately calms you down. Now, with anxiety, you need to have somebody you need to know, because we know with emotions, you can see this in politics right now, there's so many emotions, they don't see truth anymore. Everybody's blinded. So if something suddenly comes, you might not catch yourself and you start getting in a panic mode. And I had that too with my asthma in the beginning. But then you realize, wait a minute, I'm breathing wrong, because an asthma attack would come. Like if I get triggered with, what is it? When I get triggered by dogs, like for instance, I have an allergy. That's the word. So then you still might feel it, but because I started breathing wrong, because it threw me back to when I was a kid, I started chest breathing. And I'm sitting at the table, I go, wait a minute. And I start breathing using my core, and it immediately was gone. And my breathing is so strong now, even when the airway is infected, it pulls it straight through. It's got zero problems doing it. Nobody knew that I was having kind of an attack. That's how
amazing. That's amazing. Anything about it? So that's something you can actually train yourself. And once, just like any other training, once you train yourself, you can it becomes automatic, I guess, to some point later on, right? Where you learn to breathe right, and then you continue to do that.
That's it, and you make the muscle stronger around it. So I was doing an interview for a pastor in Cincinnati somewhere, and his friend was in the hospital with COVID, and it was like the family was starting to say goodbye. His oximeter reader was very slow, very low. I mean, we're talking 80 or so. It was really bad. They thought he was not going to make it. And he said to me, he heard about the O2 Trainer, so can we use that thing? I said, no, because he's in the hospital, he's tired. This is a core attack. You're going to feel your muscles. I have bodybuilders buying them for their abs now. That's how hard your core works. I said, but let him do this. Put a book on the solar plexus, because he's laying down anyway, right? And let him raise the book. Just let him raise the book. So because with your chest, you can't raise the book, and his chances he's breathing wrong are 95%. And he started doing that. He called me the next day. They were freaking out. He had like 95 oximeter in one night by just breathing correctly. So then
Wow.
you can only imagine what you do if you make those muscles stronger,
Yes.
so they get more endurance. You can keep on going. If you think about this, but people don't understand, if you're gassing, metaborflex, that's the beautiful
Yes.
word for it. What happens is really weird because your number one priority in the body are your breathing muscles, right? I mean,
Of
3, 4
course.
minutes without it, you're dead. Number one priority. Then water, then food and shelter. Of course, you're going to need as well. But breathing is the first one. You need to make sure that you make those breathing muscles strong, because once you start gassing, you're running up a hill and you start gassing, you know what it is? That's literally the body starts redirecting the oxygenated blood. And they
Correct.
take it away from your legs. You go, whoa, no, my body will never do that because I'm running up a hill. No, it sends it to your 11 pounds of breathing muscles because they're the number
Right.
one priority. So now the muscles get less oxygen and boom, you start gassing. Now, if you work out these breathing muscles, they don't have to steal the blood. Literally, that's a medical term, actually, blood stealing. You'll find that in published medical journals. They don't have to steal it anymore. So you're gassing way later than you were gassing before. And that's the
Wow.
great power about this thing. Yeah.
Amazing. It's amazing. So that's something I think a lot of people should know about it. And I think, I know you do a lot of promotional stuff and all the different activities. And I think a lot of people that are dealing with mental health issues and mental things such as anxiety, such as PTSD, and the other issues where they start experiencing breathing issues and breathing problems, and they can't breathe right. They should know about these. In my opinion, knowledge is so powerful because sometimes simplest ideas, simplest solutions may not even be that apparent, but once they become, then they kind of solve a lot of problems, even if it helps some people, not everyone, of course. It
Yeah.
helps a lot of people. I think a lot of these resources should be made known and should be really promoted in the aspect of people dealing with not just physical training where you have always excelled, but even mental health issues and things where anxiety really plays a role. Depression is another one. You know what I mean?
We are so used, and especially in America, to medicate everything. We just put
Yes.
band-aids on everything. We're popping. I have a friend of mine, anxiety for the last 30 years. He's freaking out. I go to and take the same medication. That crap doesn't work. And then he tries the Ototator 3 times. So yeah, it didn't work, and he stopped. And I go, you're taking the same crap over for 30 years. And it's
And
not
here you
doing
try
anything.
twice, right?
You're worse. But this, after 3 days, you have to understand, you have to retrain your body. If you've been breathing wrong since you were 5.5, yeah, it's going to take 4 weeks. Trust me. But then the whole thing will open. Listen, when I was competing, I will be sometimes, when the nerves are coming, I had this thing that I was doing. I had no clue this had to do with breathing because my breathing was wrong. If you see me in my world title fights, I'm breathing like this. It's completely wrong. But what I do in the dressing room, I would do these things. I will breathe in, and I would make a humming sound, and
Right.
that my belly vibrate, and it would make me calm. Well,
Mhm.
now I know that is what there's a bunch of ways you can stimulate the vagus nerve that I was just talking about. One is diaphragmatic breathing, the other one is humming, the other one
Right.
is singing, and then cold water in your face and massaging your ear with the ear tips, the inside of your ears. But unknowingly, I was doing the breathing and the humming. I did it simultaneously. And now I know what I was doing. But at the time, I had no clue because in the fight, I was breathing like this. But if I let my belly vibrate, it felt so good and it calmed me down. Then when I do this, I do it also for my head. If I have a headache, I go, and I make a higher sound because then you feel your skull vibrate. And that's
Right.
vibration of the skull. I always thought that's the reason, it loosens it up. But it wasn't. It's the
It really is all
stimulation.
about breathing, right? Yeah.
You
That's
see, so
amazing.
it's amazing because I didn't know, but I was using the techniques. You see, now I know what I was doing, but at the time I
Right.
had no clue. I was just doing something.
And it's good to be able to teach other people the same thing. I was watching, I believe, Hickson Gracie and other people that are really big into breathing. I think
Oh
that
yeah,
makes them much more effective in other ways. Obviously, it's just one element. But like I said, breathing is number one need of us as human beings,
yep.
especially the ones that have various issues and various different things. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I think you're doing a great thing trying to help people. But as far as awareness, I'm just going to go back to Mauro for a
Yeah,
moment.
yeah,
And guys like him, and there's so many other ones. I mean, as you know, a lot of famous personalities. I think first of all, they should be using this and other resources that are natural resources, including therapy, because I think that medication to a greater degree really gets people hooked, does not really exactly solve the problem, makes them able enables them to function, but it doesn't really address. They're not like, for example, your device there actually addresses the problem for good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It changes the whole thing, and then boom, you become more efficient and you solve certain issues. One thing I noticed about, you know, anxiety and depression is that sometimes they don't know what else to do. They don't know what else may be out there. So they're kind of like grasping for straws, and they say, well, you know, give me any kind of solution. If it's medication, I guess it is. I need something. You know who really, what I've come to realize is people such as veterans, people that, when you mentioned PTSD, veterans and retired police force are such great examples of that, because they live a certain life of action, life of activity, and sometimes, a lot of times, dangerous activity. And then when they come back to the so-called regular life, they don't know how to adjust. And that PTSD and that anxiety really kicks in. And I think there's a lot of parallel between fighters like yourself and veterans, because I think when you retire from your active fighting career, there's a bit of adjustment. Even I think after a fight, when you give an interview, I think there's a bit of an adjustment where you just came out of this battle, right? Where your life is literally at stake. And then boom, you're talking to a normal, regular human being. You're like, how do you adjust it? And I always try to come up with this answer, which I always ask fighters: how do you make yourself adjust back to this regular functioning? Does it take a lot of nerves? Like, what's your procedure for returning back to the regular society, so to speak?
You see, I had a few questions like this also. I was doing this talk in front of 800 Catholic men last weekend, and also somebody asked me about that. You know, you were a throat slitter and a thing and that, and if I feel bad about the pain I put on my student or for my opponents, and I go, nah, not really. I go, yeah, I'm a different guy right now, but you guys see it completely different than we see it. You know, for us, it's not violence. For us, it's as normal as shooting hoops with you. For us,
Right,
it's testing skills. There is no, very rarely, the ones you see on TV that people are angry at each other, 90% is fake. You know, it's
right.
not really deep rooted hate. You know, you only have that a few moments. But for the rest, I walk in the dressing room before a fight. Kosaka, when I fought him in the UFC, hey, TK, I'm going to try to knock you out. Hope you do the same thing with me. Shaking hands. Afterwards, we drink a beer. Okay, buddy, good luck. Good luck. See you then. This is literally how we are. And it's and going to a training session, our training sessions, I would say my training sessions are harder than a fight. I mean, people walk in and go like, dude, I don't want to train here, because we go. You know, we don't go for the head, we go hard, but you see, we go the body, and I'll try to drop you, and you better try to drop me.
Right.
You know, and with leg kicks as well. So, and then you put it in a cage, and only animals and prisoners are in a cage, right? And then you have these little gloves, and people don't understand why the gloves are there. It's actually there's all this misinformation, and people don't want to see it. It's again,
Right.
it's politics. You log on to one thing and you forget everything else.
Right.
The cage is there for the safety of the fighters, so they don't fall out. Actually, the UFC brought to the Athletic Commission at the time a fight with me and Frank Shamrock, where we fly out of the ring. And they said, we don't want that. That's dangerous for the guys. We fell on the ground. So they put a cage there, you see. So, and then a little cut, well, they can do a lot of, it can look really bad, right? If your heart rate goes 160 beats a minute, you know, 170, and there's a little tiny cut, your whole face is blood, but they go to the corner and you see them wiping it off, and there's nothing. You see those superficial wounds. So for a person on the outside, yeah, I can understand. They go like, dude, this is crazy. Yeah. But it's really not that crazy. So when you come out, it's the same as having a hard training session. You switch to normal, because for you, that's normal. You know, now if it was a very angry guy kicked you in the pills, and you know, and there's a lot of talking going on, yeah, he needs to calm down, probably, or especially if he's just been rocked very hard. But for the rest, yeah, there's almost no downtime, because we're the same. The more aggressive you are in a fight, the less you're going to perform. So the trick for you is to stay completely relaxed, to have that mind, that flow. You're in a flow state, you know, and anger doesn't do that. Anger makes you telegraph. If I want to hit you in the face, I want to hit you like this. Poof. I don't want to hit you like that. I don't want to load up, but that's what you do when you're angry. You see, now you're telegraphing. So you try to stay far away as you can from anger. And everybody knows this. So yeah, it's so weird indeed. If you look at it from the outside, it's
not the same, right? It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not really much of an enjoyment. In other words, it's almost like you're exercising your skill.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
it.
skill,
He was the best. That's literally it. Like if I asked for Hicks and Gracie, I wanted to fight at the time. Everybody, oh, you hate Hicks and Gracie? I admire this guy. I just want to see if I can stay out of his crazy submissions because boy, he's really freaking good on the ground. You see, that's the reason I want to fight, not because I don't like a person. That's also a thing. This is so funny, Mike. If I go, if people get in a discussion with me, they're afraid I'm going to hit them. And I go,
Right.
what do you think that fighters, that's how we solve our problems? Are you stupid? I said, of course not. It will be, we do that for money. We'll
Yes.
never notice. It's like my last street fight was the Sweden story. That's what 24 years ago. So I never have a problem. You see, so yeah, it's cool. But this is good with an interview like this because then people understand. Wait a minute, yeah. For people, it looks crazy. For us, it's something whatever.
People look at it completely differently, and I think from the outside it looks different, and then people wonder, how's this even possible? And how's he able to talk like a regular human being to a journalist like Mauro Ranallo or anybody else? A funny comes off. Think about, like you said, people are afraid. I will never forget the funny episode between you and Mirka Krokop when you set him up to play a joke on Mauro. Oh. But you saw the fear in him. Why? Because look, he knows nothing, most likely nothing's going to happen. But you're talking to a guy like Mirko who can literally smack you with 2 seconds. Boom, you're out. You're done.
When he looked at me, like, back me up here, and I just neglected him, he got so afraid.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. But most people react in that way. But especially now that I know also a lot of people get to know about Mauro, that he probably experienced true fear, and he probably experienced a lot of other things where he was like, oh man, what's gonna happen? And probably dealt with it after the episode with all the cameras being away. Probably had to deal with it, you know what I mean? So because I see this anxiety in other people, how they react. But being around fighters, of course, listen, can you imagine? Because the skill level, that's why people still talk to Mike Tyson, still talk to Bas Rutten. When you talk, nothing's gonna happen. There's most likely a nice guy and this and that, but who knows? What if? Because this what if is could be the end of the world, you know what I mean, for somebody. So it is what it is.
It really is, and it's really sad with the whole with depression and with all this stuff because I had a period like that. I was and I can control most of the time on body wise and mental wise. I can control a lot myself. I know exactly all the tricks that I can use, to stay calm, to relax, to not to have a really good habit sets, skills of habits I use. But after my last fight, I don't know what it was. It was like 7 years after I didn't compete. Won the fight, everything was good, and it was maybe something like clicked, like, okay, that was it, you cannot do it anymore, and I shot into depression. And before that, I always tell people, you look at the commercials with the guys, walk on the street, they're depressed, it's a medication for depression, and you see these people, you go, come on, dude, just be happy. That's literally what I would tell people, just be happy. And that's what other people, that's what 80% of people says. I go, it doesn't work like that. Right. Once you are depressed, it scared the crap out of me. I had suicidal thoughts. I don't know what I would have done if I had no family. I might have done it because I saw an overpass and I thought, hey, let's put my car against it. And I go, whoa, what are you thinking? Exactly. And I was freaking out and just crying. And I go, what the heck is going on? And now I understood. It was almost as if God said, hey, you had to laugh, just be happy here. This is how it feels. Right. Now And that's when I really woke up. I go, okay, yeah, that's a whole different animal. And then the way I got out of it, but with me, it's thankfully, it was not like with other people who have really traumatic experiences or a chemical imbalance. I don't think I had that, but I just made a list of all the good things in my life and the bad things in my life. And then, you realize that the good things outweigh by far all the bad. And then you start constantly reading it. And this is good. My daughters are healthy, my family's healthy, but this is healthy, and then constantly repeating. And that's how I got it out. That's what I would do in training. If I didn't like to get tired, I would brainwash myself to love getting tired, and then suddenly, boom, I loved it to get tired. And then I would pull out every workout. So it helped me. So I always been doing these things to myself. And it worked with this as well, thankfully. Because boy, that was like 2.5, 3 months. Very scary time.
But you kind of dealt with it yourself. See, I think a lot of people don't have the same strength to overcome things, so they need help. Like you said, they need support. Yep. Medication is always no, it's not. In other words, they always say because that's the easy. Oh yeah, pop a pill and you're done. But ultimately, what really works is, like I said, support. Some people cannot help themselves the way you did, the way you overcame, you kind of
Yep.
focused and you said, look, let me focus, identify, that's called cognitive theory, where you basically identify specific thoughts in specific moments. But then a lot of people don't have that, so they need support. I guarantee you that Mauro and other people that openly speaking about such issues, they really need help sometimes, and they really, but supporting each other, I think, gets people through without all these medications, without all the crap that really poisons you and keeps you actually hooked without solving the problem, right? Because you think about, like, even in your case, you said there was a period, 2-3 months, and then boom, that's it, you're good. In other words, because really, if you think about it, it's not real, because it's all something you, the way you perceive it. And then same situation 3 months later, you're like, what was I really down about? Because I have so much to be grateful for. Thank God for all the things I have, right? Exactly. Right.
You know, now it's so sad, because now you have, if it happens with kids, they get attacked. You know, now the girl that killed herself and the other boy that killed himself. You know, because and those kids who did that, like just bullying and bullying relentlessly. You know, I hope they learn from this mistake, because you know, and they, nobody, everybody, it's so easy for people to crap on people. And it's well, what are you doing? I saw this somebody sent me a picture from a guy with an empty ice scoop, and then in the background was this overweight lady, and it acted like she was the cream on that thing. And then you go, I don't even react to people like that. I go, why would you do that? You know, don't know how bad she might have it. Maybe she already lost 20 pounds. She's really hard busy with, you know, and then for her to see her on the face. You know, Lizzie Velasquez, you know, was one time called the world's ugliest woman. You know, she has the deformity, she's the most powerful lady ever. I mean, I follow her. She's a great speaker and everything. And then people, imagine you're 16 years old and you go online and you see a video about you where they say you're the worst. I wish they put her back into the womb. And then those comments, and you go, what are people? How insane are people? I mean, I would love to slap them around. You get so angry, but then again, you know, it's just idiots. They have no clue. They have no clue what they're doing. I have bullies. I made a list of my bullies, you know, and I went after every single one of them. And there were some guys that were like literally saying, "Boss, I'm sorry, I don't remember anything." I said, "Oh, I remember." Boom.
You remember.
I was no more. I mean, they pushed me to the freaking max. There was a moment one time I remember I got into a fight, or they wanted to, and I think I saw a Tarzan movie, and I'm on the playground with at school, at the schoolyard, and there was a tree, a branch, and I grabbed the branch and I wanted to swing and then stomp him in his chest like in the movies, and the branch broke, and they were already bullying me, and everybody was pointing at me and laughing. And I ran home, which was like only 200 yards away, and I grabbed a big kitchen knife and I ran back. And then my mom thankfully saw me at the front window, and she started to chase me, and she stopped me. Until this day, I always think, you know, what would I have done? Because I lost it. I mean, I was almost stabbing my mother. I mean, I was going crazy. So would I have done it? You know, so don't push these kids, man. And now you see these kids going to school with guns, and they start shooting, you know, because the bullet, or the thing we heard in Idaho, wherever it was, you know, the horrible thing. Apparently he got bullied a lot as well.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't make it right. I'm not saying that at all, but it makes it understandable, you know, because you go as the years, and it goes, and then suddenly there's the drop that made the bucket flow. That's what we say in Holland. And then now we go, you don't care anymore. You'll reach its limit. And now you're going to do it. And the problem, most of the time, they say, I'm going to kill myself, but those guys are going to come with me. You see? And now you created the thing. So please, people at home, stop. Judge not, right? It's one of the big ones in the Bible, right? Matthew 7, 1 and 2.
Of course.
Do not judge, or you will be judged. Stop doing that crap. It's so unnecessary. Talking about other people is just an insecurity that you have, you know, and people need to stop doing it, because you hurt people without even knowing it. With one line, I have lines, Mike, that people still not going to say to me from all the way back. Like I was a leper, a Malaatse, that's what they called me in school, you know, and there are certain things that I don't care anymore. But there were certain things that they said, and somebody would say this now, I would go, don't say that again. Right. Because I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Those are trigger words, absolutely.
40 years later, and I still can't control that, you know, so that's how much damage it does to you. You know,
because when you were little, and it's something like that affects you mentally, and you remember for the rest of your life. It's a trigger. Yeah, absolutely.
There's the things that I'm just throwing it out there so you can see how you can derail a person, right? There's an example of like imagine your kid loves to sing, 6 years old, all day long singing, singing, singing. Now you come home one day and you have a headache, and then he's singing and says, "Shut up! You got a stupid voice. You know it's not going to go anywhere." That
Yes.
can completely ruin the kid for the rest of their life. That one line. Now she doesn't like, or he doesn't like to sing anymore. You know, now they think they're not good. Now they think, you know, one line because you were pissed off. And this is not the parents' fault because it's just emotions. You know,
Right.
they don't do it on purpose because if they would know that they would do this something, but it's just one little line that
That's all
can
it takes.
completely ruin the kid for the rest of their lives. And think about that. And the kids now, you have to know that if something like that happens, you got to step back because, you know, hey, he might have just been angry. You see, but many kids, they don't even realize it and they stop and the dream is gone. It's a
Absolutely.
sad thing. It's very
And you know
scary.
what's interesting? I'm telling you, some people are more prone to reacting in a worse way. They may have already certain mental health issues going on already. So stuff like bullying overflows that what you call the last drop in the bucket. And then what happens is they don't know how to deal with it. There's also a big issue of, like I said, stigma, where they don't even look for help. They just kind of keep it all inside. They keep it all inside. And they deal with it until that last drop in the bucket, and they react. And when they react, we hear about it in the news, unfortunately. Instead of them saying, "Look, I want to deal with this the proper way. I want to deal with this through. I want to seek help. I want to look for help. Some of it is physical, some of it is actually professional counseling. There's always options, but I think people speaking out about this topic is what helps younger kids, in fact, come out and say, you know what, I'm dealing with this. I'm going to deal with this. I know I can because I'm not going to get, bullied for seeking help. And I think a lot of it is possibly part of that as well. Just think about, people that are dealing with bipolar and other disorders. Oh my God, they're sometimes so scared to say. If you think about one element of bipolar disorder, it's called manic disorder, manic type of them. There's actually a word maniac in our language, where we're afraid to say that. People don't want to be associated with that, so they keep it inside. They say, I don't have a problem, I'm good. And then when the time comes, it's too late. Instead of seeking.
That was Mauro, when I saw him, that was manic. That was like,
Sure.
it was like almost like he was possessed.
Yeah.
So it's, it's the stigma. It's like you said, it's like somehow we perceive it as weakness. What?
Yes.
Not we, the idiots out there, they perceive it as weakness. That's the saying this the whole time. We have this in Holland, like a real man is not allowed to cry, in public. And you see what I like in Japan, they have a better way. In Japan, they say a real man has the balls to cry in public. Ooh, you see? I like that. So just come out for it. We all have our problems, and everybody's simple. Listen, if I'm insecure and they start pointing, messing with me, I can always say, hey, if you want to fight, if you really want to see who's the toughest guy, but just having a mental disorder doesn't mean I can beat the crap out of you.
Right.
I won't forget. That I won't unlearn, and every person has their set of skills. It doesn't matter what it is. You can say, oh, that guy's an idiot, but hey, you might be building airplanes. You don't know, there's a lot of smart people.
But something to be said about what you said earlier is all these idiots. Sometimes you want to keep your opinion to yourself, whatever it is. Because when you say something, it really, really hurts the other person. You have no idea what impact it may have on them. You may totally derail their psyche when it comes especially to younger kids. Oh my God, I see this so much in therapy and others. They don't know what to do because they don't even understand all the different tools and elements. And to them, it's just something more than they can handle. And then it affects them for the rest of their lives. Think about it. You personally dealt with it positively.
I'd say in my talks, I say this. If you want to say something, doesn't matter what it is, or do an action, is this going to make me smarter, mentally stronger? Or what I like to do, is this going to bring me closer to God? And if the answer is no, why would you do it?
Exactly.
And it makes no sense. If like somebody is like overweight and you feel an urge to say, why would you say that? It's an insecurity about yourself, And if you do it, you automatically assume that other people doing it to you as well. You see, that's what and go, whoa, now it's a loop. You got to.
Absolutely.
People are so weird, If you don't do it, it's like clicking on a picture of this a beautiful girl online, right? And because there's algorithms, there's all, and they look how many seconds you look at it. If you don't click for like a week or 2 weeks, they don't even show up anymore. And it's the same with you reacting. If you want to react, you just stop. Like when I get back to the faith, that's the thing that I did not want to do anymore. like make a funny comment, because that could be a little on the border, you know. And I said, no, just don't do it. And in the beginning, you know, and I had a rubber band. I would pull a rubber band. I go, oof, I will feel that, and I would not do it. And then you do it a bunch of times, but then suddenly within a month, it's out of your system. You don't even come up for you to say something. You know,
the habit, right? It becomes a habit. It becomes something you deal with.
That's it. And my whole life, I have ADD. I need habits. If I don't have habits, well, that's where I go wrong. Like if I train, I can go full power. But if I drink or drugs or anything else, I can go full power. I got a super addictive personality in all both ways, which is really good for good things, or really bad for bad things. And once you know the bad things and you can make habits around them, and so you don't do it and constantly you have to stick with it, because I always tell people making a good habit is great, but as easy it is to make a habit, that's how easy it is to lose that habit again.
Right.
So you gotta stick with it. Like for instance, the last 15 years, I stretch every day. You know, so how many times you missed? Well, maybe with an injury I wouldn't, but for the rest, I will always stretch. There's a habit that I built and I won't do it. I have this whole routine that I do more with in the morning with meditation and everything, and even prayers, and you know, and didn't lose one, not one. Not in a lot of years, not one. You see, building a habit, and it becomes normal. And now it's kind of feels good. You know, you're in line and you're doing certain things like reading.
You know, that's a solution. That's such a great solution, actually. They don't understand that. People that have anxiety and PTSD and such, I think they're missing it. In other words, if there were to actually implement discipline and some sort of build some habits that are different from what they used to be previously, that makes their life more organized, more in order, and basically equips them to deal with whatever problem it may be, whatever is perceived problem they have in their minds. It's so helpful. Exactly.
Turn all your notifications off immediately. Start with that, especially if you have a mental disorder, because you can get triggered really fast. I'm reading this book right now. It's called Stolen Focus from Johan Hari. Highly recommend it for everybody. I mean, they actually talk about kids who have ADD, that you can misdiagnose them because maybe they had some childhood trauma, something's really bad at the home. So really watch out, because many times if that happens, like they get misused sexually or whatever it is, it's really bad. They give all the signs of being ADD or ADHD. You see, but this shows you how the algorithms got you in control, and then you go like, whoa, this is like, okay, we know our phone's controlling us. No, you don't know. You read that, it's way worse than you think.
Much more than you think. Yeah, absolutely.
And all the people who design those algorithms, their kids, guess what? They don't have phones. They don't allow their kids to have phones because they make them dumb. It makes you stupid. It's literally that. So once you start turning off all the notifications, listen, if you're a like lover, you know, every time, I got a like, and you get a notification, turn that shit off, dude. Don't it? And don't even let them come up anymore. So just once a day, maybe twice a day, go to your Twitter, whatever you follow, and then you answer some questions, and that's it. And once you start doing that, you get focused on so many more things. I have only an alarm going off for my text message and a WhatsApp, because that's from Holland to Europe. I got family there. But for the rest, I got zero that pops up. And it gives me a lot of freedom. You know, and in the morning when I go through my prayers and I do all the things, my first 3.5 hours, I don't have my phone on. You can call me whatever you want, because I know that if you're in focus, and that's what book talks about, if you're in complete focus, you're doing something, and then a ping comes and you look at it, it will take you average 23 minutes to go back into that same focus. So let's turn the phone off.
People don't know that. People don't think that.
He's already dead. There's nothing you can do. So, you know.
Hey, it's an addiction. You know, it's a form of addiction, actually. Phone is a form of addiction, just like drugs and alcohol. I mean, if you allow it to be, except that this one you can deal with, like you just said. I think it's a matter of forming habits, forming healthy habits, much like your breathing thing, much like controlling the phone, not letting the phone control you. It's all a matter of mental discipline, right? I mean, it's all really what it's all about. Yeah, absolutely.
5 years been doing it. I might have missed 70. So that's when I travel.
Right.
So for 5 years, I've been doing it. Every single day I miss maybe 70, like maybe 2% I miss. That's how I'm at with habits.
Unbelievable.
Always do it.
And it's something that could be taught. In other words, it's something
everybody can do this. That's the greatest thing. It's not like, oh, look at me. No, everybody can do this.
Everybody should do it. Right?
It's just doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all right. Bas, I feel terrible. It took so much of your time.
Oh, no, don't worry. This is great.
Totally. But I think people like you speaking out, people like you, Mauro, and all the other celebrities that are speaking out about this thing, and making other people think about all the stuff you just mentioned, even that is precious to me. And I think it's just so helpful. I really, really thank you, man. I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to train other people with the breathing and the discipline and everything else. And you're sharing the knowledge. You think about the life you've had, you know what I mean? You're sharing all this experience right now with all these guys. Even what you mentioned about the fighting, people don't see that. People don't think like that. And learning, hearing things from you is life-changing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but this, now they also know, also with the just think happy thoughts. Now people understand that's not working. That
Right.
makes no sense if you say that. It doesn't work like that. Therefore, a healthy person, it works like that.
You can't
But
fake it.
if
You can't
someone,
fake it. Right. You cannot fake
yeah,
if you don't have happy thoughts, you're not going to think them.
that's
The
it.
key is to develop those things and actually feel happy and then, go to that. And it makes
Yeah,
sense. Correct.
but it might
Absolutely.
take some work. And a lot of people nowadays, we don't want to work anymore. It's a popping a pill for everything, right?
Right. Right.
And so if you just live healthy, eat healthy, you'll be amazed what problems you can squander away. And if you still have mental problems, that will help you tremendously. Being in shape and being to recoup with problems.
Right.
The best. It's like people, who drink their problems away. And then, well, the problem, you don't drink the problem away. It will still be there the next day. Worse, actually, because now you have a hangover, you got to deal with it. You see,
Right.
so what do? Then you start drinking again because you don't want to, and now you're caught in a loop. And now suddenly you have an addiction, and they do it with everything. While stopping it, facing the problem, making sure you settle the problem so it's not a problem anymore. That's the only way. But if you try to avoid all the things in your life, that's not life. You're
No,
going to have
no,
to attack your
absolutely.
problems, whatever it is, face it, so it's not a problem anymore. And then you get up to better things.
But you
It's
know what
hard.
it is? It's hope. It's also hope. In other words, they think, okay, there's nothing else. There is nothing else. If I
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean? Sometimes, so that's the key is to help show these people that there is other solutions. There's something else you can do. Face the problem, exactly. Deal with
Yeah.
whatever it may be, like even mental health, anything it has a solution. In my opinion, everything in the world has, if there's a problem, there's definitely a solution. Just talk to someone that knows or can suggest a direction to pursue. Don't necessarily take a pill and pretend that everything, because alcohol is just another pill. Like I say, it's going to
That's it.
makes you forget about a problem for a few hours, and then you wake up with a worse problem. Same
But
thing with the medication. Unless you pop another pill, you're like, oh my God, I'm done.
yeah.
And that's terrible. That
And
is
whatever
terrible.
problem you have, there's always somebody who has it worse.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had that when I was a kid. I had my hands, my arms, and everything. I knew there was people out there who was 365 days covered head to toe. My asthma attack of a week in bed, I knew there's people out there every single day of the year. Had to move to like maybe Italy or something in the mountains to get more air in. So there's always somebody who has it worse than you. And that's what I
Absolutely.
always did. And also another thing, however bad your life is, every person 6 feet under will trade it with you in a blink of an eye. I'll guarantee you that.
Well
And that's a
said.
good way of thinking about it as well. Because we love life. The people with suicide. Well, I just saw the guy again who jumped off the bridge, right? And he said that as soon as he jumped, he knew he shouldn't have done it. And that's a crazy story, man. In New York, broke everything, flowed to the bottom of the river, thought he was dead, felt something in his back, and a dolphin pushed him back to the freaking surface. And then
Unbelievable.
a year later, it took a long time for him to get out of the hospital. A year later, he and his father go drop flowers there, from the bridge. And he threw the flowers down, and as soon as it hit the water, a dolphin came back up. I go,
Wow.
dude, that is freaking, that's life, you see? So we're all
Unbelievable.
connections. There's all connections, and try to find a good way.
Unbelievable.
And if you don't want to do it for you, think about the people around you,
Right.
And if you're in a bad situation, if you can tackle it, you can become a spokesperson for the people who are in the same boat, and now you can help the other people. So there's always light points, it doesn't
And the
matter
key
what.
is for people that have people look up to, like people look up to you, Mauro, and all the other celebrities, like I said, Jewel. There's so many people that have openly spoken up about it. People look up, exactly. People look up to you and they listen. You can become a spokesperson for the fact that you can deal with those issues. Like I said, person that's ready to jump off a bridge or whatever, that's someone that doesn't believe that there's another answer. They believe that this is it. That's the end of it. And unfortunately, I see, like I said, the veterans, and I come across such people, and it's a matter of really changing their perception and saying, listen, there's so much to be thankful for.
Mhm.
And it's just a matter of focusing on that versus focusing on the bad things, which everyone has bad things, whatever. But you're focusing on the positive, and you grow, you cultivate the positive. And it can be done. But it's so amazing that people are now able to share that. You know what I mean?
It's hard in this society, Mike, to focus on the good things because we all focus on the bad ones. You know, whatever, if you have a big group of people and like 1 or 2% is bad, then everybody's bad. And we're so wired to do that. And it just makes people insanity, you know. And if you
Yeah.
write a tweet, I always tell them you get 100 great responses, but one bad one, all your focus is going to go to the one bad one. It's always the same. You know, if you had 100 bad ones and one good one, you're not going to go to the good one. It's still focused on this. So we are so focused, and it gives us a kind of endorphins, you know. And apparently, and I looked this up, and again, it's in that book as well. Hate will gives you more of that endorphins than love will do, and that's a scary thing. Do you know that if you're on Facebook, if you put something like hateful in your comments before you send it, you have, this is proven, 50% more replies, 50% more shares. On Twitter, it's 20%. Just by saying something outrageous, hateful, not just a bad thing like F you or so. No, hateful things will freaking rise to the top, and you get way more followers.
Well, you know why? It's being utilized in politics a lot, and
oh yeah,
they write that because they know that's how they get attention. But unfortunately, it affects so many people that buy into that and they follow it and they let it get to them. Instead of filtering and saying, you know, it's all BS and it's okay, it is what it is. But
just don't do it anymore. That's what I do. I'm not going to go on TV anymore. I don't want to watch it anymore. Every single time when an Instagram post comes up, whatever political is, you can click on that, by the way, for people who know, and then you can say, I don't want to see this. And you click on that and it won't show up anymore. So if you have them come up and you don't want them, that's what you can do. It's very simple, you know. And then like a girl pops up in a bikini, goes, oh, why would I see? Why would I? I'm fine. Why would I look at it? You know, so I say, I'd rather don't see this, you know. But guys, you know, we still might keep looking, you see, might as well not have it show up.
You're gonna look as long as it doesn't, you know, deflect you into the wrong direction. And the question is, a lot of people don't have that discipline. You spoke about discipline and habits, healthy habits. As long as you control the flow of things, not the other way around, where it totally occupies you. You forgot what you were supposed to do and you focus on this negative stuff, whatever it is, whatever pops up on your phone. You're like, oh, you forgot about it, and that's it. That's all you know. And that's hard. Most people don't have, because you gotta remember yourself. You've accomplished a lot of stuff in your life based on the discipline, based on being consistent and working hard. A lot of people don't have this. So a lot of people have to learn from people like you and others to develop those skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but please know at home, there's still things I need to control, you know. So don't I'm sitting here all high-minded and telling people,
oh yeah, no, for sure.
I wish it was under control, you know, because there's still things that I go like, oh, you know, it's an everyday battle, like alcohol. I'd like to drink a beer, you know, I simply don't, you know. And if I do, I drink 1 or 2, I will not get drunk anymore. That's been a long time. You see, but it's a struggle. It pops up in my mind, you know. So yeah, and it's hard to say no. This is what I say in the talks, you know. Suffering is saying no to the things that will give you pleasure, but steer you away from a good life, so to say. I say God, but let's say there's atheists out there being healthy. So that means if 2 beers, you feel it, or you really want a 3rd beer, well, suffering is saying no to that. Because if I do that, I'm going to go over the mark. You're going to feel bad tomorrow because then you're going to keep on drinking. You're going to have it. This is when addiction starts. And the real man, the guy who's in control, can actually say no to that. You know, or with drugs, or with women, or with cheating, or whatever it is. Hey, that could be very fun. You know, if you're married for a long time and there's this beautiful girl coming, well, saying no to that will be at that moment suffering for you because you really want it. You see, so once you realize that, then you say, wait a minute, I want to be that guy who's in control, who can literally say no to all the bad stuff. You know, and sure enough, it will pop up here and there still, you know. I might still make 3 drinks or 4 drinks. Shouldn't have done that, you know, but that's a long time ago, because the more you say no, the stronger you get, and the easier it becomes for you to say no. It's so easy, but vices work like that as well. You know, the more you give in, the weaker you get, and the harder it becomes for you to say no. You see, so there's both forms. But saying no to vices makes you stronger. Giving in, that's addiction. Whatever it is, it makes you weaker. So if you want to be a strong man, say no.
Say no, and like I said, it never ends. The battle never ends, man.
It's hard. 100%, yeah, like with me, it's hard, but we can try.
yeah. Bas, appreciate your time, man. I'm going to stop the recording. I truly appreciate everything you said, and I'm hoping that we could do more with other people. That because people look up to that, and that helps countless people. You know that. Thank you so much, man.
You're welcome. When it's out, let me know. I'll post it on my Facebook. We got another one.
Absolutely. Okay, Bas. Talk soon.
Godspeed, brother. Take care.